I'm Nick Harcourt. It's Morning Becomes Eclectic, and Dido is back in our studios today. Well, actually, not our studios. We're in the salubrious surroundings of the Village recording studios. It's good to see you.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
It's been, I think, 4 years plus since you were on our program.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe longer.
Well, it must have been in the first year the record was out, because I came on sort of straight away. So it's probably like 3 years. Yeah, 3 or 4 years.
Right. And at the time when we first met you, I'm sort of going back in time now, we were doing our show from CMJ for the first time, and you came on our program and did a set there.
Yep.
And then about 6 months after that, when the record came out, I don't think the record was actually out the first time you were on the show. Then the record came out, and you came back, and you were on at the station.
Yeah.
And before we talk about the new record, I mean, I have to talk about the last couple of years, because your life just all of a sudden got nuts, right? I mean, it really did. I mean, the record was out in the States for about a year or so, and was doing pretty well. And then, I mean, we can't avoid talking about it. Eminem sampled,
changed everything,
and Stan just changed everything.
Yeah, no, it really did, and suddenly everything went, well, good nuts, do you know what I mean? Nutty, but
sure.
Good. And because basically Stan came out before the record came out anywhere else in the world, and because my album hadn't been released yet anywhere else. So
it had only been released in the States
up until that point. It had only been released in America,
right?
Yeah, I was in a very sort of silly record company situation. So Stan comes out, and then my record comes out sort of closely followed by that, so of course it just went crazy at that point.
Well, we're talking about No Angel, obviously, being the first record. Were you surprised at how big an impact a sample could have on your life?
I still can't believe it, you know, and everyone sort of always, you know, talks about it, and I just think I still am so amazed to this day that all those people went to investigate my record because of 6 lines of it.
That's right, 6 lines in Eminem's song.
Exactly.
Enough, I guess, to interest enough people to want to go out and check out your record.
I mean, which is what you want. I mean, to me, that's what music is about. It's just hearing it in all sorts of different contexts and sort of following it through. You know, I do that too. I sort of hear a snippet of something in the radio, sit in my car for 4 hours waiting for them to tell me what the track was. You know, but it's like, to me, that's what's fun about music.
Now, obviously, you wouldn't have had any expectations when you released this record of selling 12 million copies.
No.
I mean, you were probably hoping for what? I mean, how well
I don't know. I was just hoping
hope
it would get
do?
out. I mean, actually, when I made it, I didn't even know it would be released. So we're like, you know, when we put it out, I don't know. I suppose I wanted to make a second record. You know, I wanted to sell enough that the record company let me make a second record. That's sort of all I could really think about. But I was only ever going to gauge it on terms of, you know, Faithless was my only other frame of reference, and, you know, from working with them, and they felt very, very successful to me. Do you know what I mean? So that seemed like, you know, the ultimate success.
And Faithless being your brother's band that you'd worked with before No Angel, and you've worked with them since as well. You had a track on the last record as well, right?
Yeah, all the records, and hopefully the next one too.
Right. So okay, so all of a sudden Eminem samples the record, things explode, and you ended up being on a fairly relentless touring schedule as well, didn't you? And working and traveling around the world. How was that?
Actually, great. I mean, because luckily by the time everything sort of exploded, I'd already been on the road for 1.5 years. So it was great having a real rapport with the band. We were really enjoying playing with each other, you know. So it was like, that part of it was great. So it wasn't like we were freaked out by suddenly having to do tons of shows.
Well, I'm guessing you were, to a certain extent, you were ready. Maybe not ready for the extent of the fame, but ready to go out and, you know, deal with this, because you'd already, as you said, been touring for 1.5 years.
Exactly. So really, actually, it felt, for us, it actually felt like quite a natural progression. The venues just sort of slowly got bigger.
Right.
I think to the outside world, it seemed a little bit more extreme than it was for us, because we'd just been sort of going the whole time. But we ended up touring for 3 years, which was fantastic.
A long time.
Yeah, sort of around the whole world.
And did you enjoy that? I mean, obviously, you travelled before, but not to that extent.
No, I mean, we stopped when I wasn't enjoying it as much anymore. I knew my cut-off points and I knew my limits, and we stopped in just the right time, because I was still really enjoying it, but I could tell in a few months I'd be like, I can't do this. You know, you can't be on the road for that long.
Right, it's a long time.
Yeah.
Living out of a suitcase, obviously,
exactly.
And forgetting where you are some days. I mean, did that happen to you?
Constantly. My worst thing was never remembering what hotel room I was in, so I'd come back after the gig. There were so many numbers to remember.
Sure.
So I'd sort of go to the room from the night before, and I'd be sort of trying to let myself into someone's room at sort of 4 in the morning.
That could lead to all sorts of interesting complications.
Yeah.
So
that's when you know you need to go home.
So you went home and you took some time off, I'm guessing, right?
Actually, no, I didn't. I was a bit dumb. I thought that I sort of said, you know what, I'm going to make the record, because I had to stay at home because I wanted to travel a little bit, but I ended up having to stay at home because my dad was sick. So I thought, you know, while I'm here and I have to be here every day, we'll make the record. Brilliant, let's start the record. I got all these ideas. So, and I wanted to get my ideas down, and then we got so involved in making the record and we were having so much fun doing it that then it sort of was finished. And I'd always thought, well, I'll take a bit of time off when it's nearly finished. Suddenly it was finished. Everyone knew it was finished.
It hasn't actually happened
bang,
yet?
No.
Wow.
But I will one day. I mean, you know what? I'm having so much fun. Why do you need to? I mean, why? In a way, I actually probably would be hopeless if I did stop for a few months, because I'd be like, why am I stopping? You know, I want to make a new record. I want to tour my new record. You know, it's like, actually, it makes no sense to stop right now.
Well, if you feel like you want to do it, and obviously you've got something to say.
I think I'm having the time of my life.
Right.
You know, so
I'm
I mean,
sure.
Why would you want to just stop and sit there and be frustrated because you're not doing what you want to do?
So was there any pressure that you put on yourself going into the studio for this record? I mean, we always hear about, you know, the sophomore record, the second record, especially after having success in such a big way on the first one. Is there any pressure that you put on yourself, or from the outside for that matter, when you decided to make the follow-up?
There wasn't pressure from the outside. That was great, because the record company were really adamant they were going to leave me alone, because they obviously weren't involved in the first one. So they were like, they didn't want to jinx it by getting involved in the second one.
Very lucky.
So it's brilliant.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I'm so thankful I made the first record without a record company, because because you know that was great. So we had no interference. And
then you can go back to them and say, look, I kind of did okay before without.
Well, I didn't even need to. I mean, they literally came up to me and were like, look, we just want you to have whatever you had before. You know, it was great, and just do whatever you want, and it's fine, and we'll just leave you alone if that's what you want, and da-da-da. And I was like, great, so I want this, this, and this, and if I invite you, you can come and hear stuff, but, you know, for fun. And that's how it was. So occasionally we'd have people down to listen to stuff and play them for fun, but nobody ever really sort of got involved. So we had so much, you know, we just had a great time making it. And I only ever really felt the pressure that I would normally put on myself, which is to make great music. I mean, you know, just every song you start, you want to make it as good as you possibly can. But I never felt, you know, I didn't ever sort of think, who's this for, or who's going to be listening to it, or how many people are going to hear it. You know, I never thought like that, because I've always just made music for myself to listen to in the car. It's that sort of, I mean, so, I don't know, it seemed quite simple in a way.
I remember the first time we met, I was talking to you about the collection of songs on No Angel, and you, I can't remember how it came up in our conversation, but basically you were a little concerned that people might think that you were a stalker, I think, because of some of the lyrical content. Yeah, do you remember telling us about that?
No, I remember people coming up to me when they'd heard Here With Me, and I just thought this was such a sweet love song, and they were like, God, you're really obsessed, aren't you?
Right.
Like, oh my God, there's probably more of that on this record. I mean, I think there's just a dark undertone to what I write that's not intentional, but it's always there, and I've sort of got used to it now. People see things as much darker often than I mean them, and I think it just comes out. It just comes out in my voice, comes out in my writing. You know, even if I'm writing a happy song, it'll get dark, you know, and if I'm writing a dark song, hopefully it'll have some sort of positivity.
Can you tell us about this collection of songs? Is it a collection of songs that came together quickly? Is it a collection of songs that maybe you already had some of them written?
I already had some written. I had like Don't Leave Home, See the Sun, Do You Have a Little Time, were songs I performed live for a few years, in fact. They were written actually really soon after I finished writing No Angel. And then the rest of the songs, you know, bits of them were started sort of as I went along, but then the bulk of all of those songs, the rest of them were written in the last year.
Now, we've only heard one song up until now as we're doing this interview, which is the single, but obviously there's an album full. The album is called Life for Rent. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the title of the album.
Basically, the title track, Life for Rent, is it's basically, I wanted to call it Life for Rent because the song means quite a lot to me, and it's sort of this constant reminder to me to sort of keep living the way that I chose to live through that song, sort of thing. And when I was writing the song, I was just trying to work out sort of, you know, quite simply just what made me happy, and I worked out that it was just, you know, really engaging in life and really focusing on what was around me and just feeling alive and sort of rising to all my challenges and, you know, doing stuff that terrified me but actually really enjoying it, and it's really just a simple song about that. It's just about choosing the life you want, and so I called the album that just as a little reminder.